fundraiser.
Be fed on the farm?
I guess.
By shaking.
Who's that? Oh, I can't read it from the way I'm reading. Is that Alonzo?
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's Alonzo.
Of course it's me. You know me, right?
Hey, Gwen, can you take your seat, please? I'm sorry? No, okay, I thought I heard someone say something. Sorry.
I'm gonna choke.
All right. It's 6:08, and we're going to start the, Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council monthly board meeting. So we're going to start off, well, that's the soda talking, sorry. With the flag salute. I'll take a volunteer who would like to lead this flag salute.
I'll leave the flag.
All right. Kelly.
All right, please stand, remove all hats. Right hand over your heart, ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sure glad you didn't say take the rules off.
I already asked somebody.
All right, if we can go ahead and take roll.
Gail Andrews is excused. John Barbera.
Here.
Vic Christensen here. Larry Eaton. Let's see him, so he is unexcused.
Oh, April Jones is excused.
Huh?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Oh. Craig Goldfarb.
Here.
Cynthia Gagne.
Here.
Alonzo Jenkins.
Here.
April Jones is excused. Melanie LeBrecq.
Here.
Kelly Miller.
Here.
Kane Nicholas.
Here.
Thomas Norman. Ray Regalado.
Here.
Michael Signorelli.
Here.
Angela Sumner.
Here.
Chris Valle.
Here.
Gwen, you have expired training that's over 60 days expired. No, it's not. So you are not able to act as a board member and need to sit in the audience. And you can act as a stakeholder.
Did you get your certificates?
I did it so far long ago that I just thought it was registered.
I checked today, you have an expired training, so that's for you to find out.
That's for you to find out.
So at this point, we need to sit in the audience with stakeholders.
His hair is long.
All right.
His hair is long.
So we have 13 present.
All right, we have quorum. We're going to go to agenda item number 2. Do we have any students here, by the way, looking for hours?
I'm always learning. I'm always learning. Yeah. There was one
High school students.
student of life. Really?
I don't see any hands up, so I just so that we know that if you do need hours, our sign-up individual is here. Melanie, see her after the meeting. All right, so let's go to agenda item number 2. This is general public comment. We do have public comment cards here. We're going to start off naming them off as I received them. So we're going to start off with Lori Jacobs.
Good evening, board. I want to speak and ask that this neighborhood council consider supporting City Council Motion 24-0602, banning artificial turf. I've written to a few of you about it. Coastal Neighborhood Council has already weighed in. And if you do vote on that, then you'd have the ability to go speak at the Port Commission in follow-up to that. I have very detailed information I can email to anybody if they'd like it. Basically, most people just think that plastic grass might be easier and cheaper and use less water. And the facts that I've dug up say that that's not really true. You know, what's our best front lawn? Plastic mat or an open field of grass? West Harbor is planning to use artificial turf in their entire outdoor venue, and I have concerns about that. And if the city council does approve opposing artificial turf, will West Harbor still be able to do that? I know we're still waiting, I believe, for the findings from the environmental impact report. Okay, this is going to be a major destination point, and I think it should be concerning to us as we are an environmentally responsible board that this spot would be using such a unfriendly, unsustainable material. So I'm hoping that this goes to some committee and they consider weighing in on this. And Thomas has already asked, I'll send him the detailed information I received. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Next is Ellen Franz.
Thank you and good evening. I would just like to make sure everybody's aware of some upcoming activities at Peck Park, Michael's home base. This Saturday morning from 9 to 12, under the talented leadership of Diana Nave, we have a volunteer day at the intersection of Walker and Elberon on the south side of the park. Great opportunity to get some fresh air and help make the park a more welcoming place for wildlife. The following Wednesday is the monthly exercise walk in Peck Park that will meet at the back of the parking lot behind this building, so out that way. And on the 24th, I believe it is, the fourth Saturday of the month, is a nature walk starting from the same point. Again, both the walks start at 9 o'clock and provide an overview of Peck Park Canyon, also known as Miraflores Canyon, which was the first water source for the community of San Pedro and is an interesting natural feature as well as part of the history of our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. All right, next up is Diana Nave.
Thank you. I have a couple of announcements. The first one is from Feed and Be Fed. As you may know, Feed and Be Fed is the organization that operates the garden on 6th Street and also the one at the Science Center, and then has a whole number of other programs for youth. Feed and Be Fed is going to have their annual fundraiser, their garden party, on Saturday, May 31st. What's particularly interesting to this body is that we're honoring Jennifer Albright for her work. She's been a leader in environmental education at Tabor and was instrumental in creating the program that Feed and Be Fed does with the Tabor fourth graders at the Science Center. So for those of you who don't know, Jennifer happens to be Chris Valley's wife. Right. So this is the invitation. If you'd like one, let me know. My other announcement relates to the signs that are in the back. I meant to bring one up. They're calling them the signs of solidarity, part of the campaign against hate. So there's some lawn signs, and there's also some window signs back here. In addition to that, there's a thing on how to, there we go. So lawn signs and window signs for campaign against hate. And then there's also a brochure that talks about how to get support if you are a victim or a witness of hate. And Ray just told me that we had another recent hate crime in Wilmington. So, you know, we're really trying hard to get people to pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Okay, I have no other requests for public comment during public comment period. Maria, we're going to, oh no, hang on. Maria, hang on. We're going to do it during the animal shelter liaison report, okay? All right, thank you. Okay. No other public comment. We're going to go to the homelessness liaison report. Lori?
Good evening again. The CD15 working group is having an in-person meeting on June 3rd. If you're interested in going, it's on the report. I'm not going to read all this verbatim. I will say I did this report a week early because I was out of town. And while I was gone, some of you may have read that more information has come out against LASA, that they had a couple of whistleblowers reporting against the CEO who just stepped down about some improprieties. This is concerning. I was hoping Jocelyn would be here, maybe could address that, but just more information. Empower LA hosted a homelessness liaison meeting. It wasn't really very informative, so I've attached what they call their impact report. So if you want to see what other liaisons are doing, you can click on that report because it was 14 pages. I wasn't going to copy all of that, but talking about how they're trying to get people engaged on homelessness. The last page of this report really kind of ties in what neighborhood councils can do to help with homelessness. I won't read all of them, but I'm hoping different committees will look at this. I brought this to the outreach committee a week and a half ago, and they've actually are taking on a couple of those issues, assigning people to research some things. I think, subscribing to legislative updates on things that are going on with homelessness that maybe we can support is helpful. Building relationships with our local organizations and service providers, but more importantly, maybe Chris is going to cover this in his report, getting familiar with local food distribution programs and how our neighborhood council can help with those, and collecting hygiene items, things like that, and help educating our stakeholders on the truths of homelessness is part of it. So you can look through that. I'm not going to go through that in detail. I have some updated information on the LA County budget, but that's changed since I did this report, so you can click on the link and get the most updated information. At the last meeting, Chris was asking me questions about Measure A and the distribution of the money, and I told you it was like a 136-page report. I have a link to that, but I kind of captured some of the more basic information. How much revenue do they expect Measure A to generate, and how will it be distributed? Of course, with the things that are going on right now, they're expecting a lot less money, sales tax collected. But I have the percentages here. For instance, comprehensive homeless services, 60%, and then how that 60% is broken down. So Chris, I did that just for you. Vic asked questions about the ULA mansion tax, and I reached out, and one of the legislative analysts, Vic, said they're looking at getting back to me. So I'm sorry I don't have an answer, but I'm working on that. I have information again on LA County eviction protections, because Kelly reached out to me with somebody that had concerns with a potential eviction, and people need to know that they do have rights out there and access to some free services to at least address some of these things. So they need to know what their rights are. And then on page 3, I have some volunteer opportunities for neighborhood councils. So if, again, outreach or any of the other committees, if they want to look at these and see if there's something that's maybe a safety committee, and see if they want to do any of these things. So I'm just trying to give you opportunities of how possibly you could be part of the solution. And that is it for this month's report.
Thank you, Lori. Any questions? Okay, let's start off with Craig.
Not a question, just a statement to the board. We've listened to these repeatedly. And what's come out, we voted billions of dollars, and we just re-voted billions of dollars. LASA was a huge mistake. It did nothing. The money that was supposed to go for housing was not there. And the people that were supposed to be holding them responsible for it weren't there. I mean, I went to meetings, I heard people talk, I heard them say stuff. I've actually gone and pinpointed where buildings were put up to hopefully service or house the homeless, and nothing was done. A lot of money was spent. A lot of money went into people's pockets. But we do not. And they sit there and tell us that there are less homeless. And I sit there and I go downtown. I've gone downtown several times, not downtown San Pedro, downtown LA. And I see it just gets worse and worse. Areas get moved. Homeless people get moved about so people can say, oh, they're not there. No, they're over there. The real problem is a lack of accountability and the people that are supposed to be watching this not being accountable. We need to get on Tim's case because he's not accountable. He voted for all of this stuff. He's been in office and watching this. And what's happened? Nothing. End of statement.
At last month's meeting, I explained a little bit about Measure A and how the county voted to take away all of finance and contracts away from LASA because of some of these issues that Craig was just talking about. There is some inherent problems. The head of the organization has stepped down. Measure A has a lot more, supposedly, measurable goals, accountability, transparency. This group is supposed to be up and starting running in January 2026, which is pretty fast. They're expecting to have about 1,000 employees. Mayor Bass, in her State of the City, did acknowledge there were problems with LASA, not in great detail. And the fact is there are people getting housed, but people are still becoming homeless at a faster rate than we could house them. So anyway, that's just my statement on that.
Any other comments from around the table? Melanie.
On the back of what Craig said, too, I would like to see some of these people prosecuted that are in the upper echelon, like the CEO that quit and the whistleblowers came out on. They need to highly go after her hard and prosecute her. Because anybody of us in finances and neighborhood councils, we sign fiduciary paperwork saying we can go to jail if we misspend neighborhood council funds for measly $32,000. Those numbers were huge that she misspent. She needs to be prosecuted.
And she had a pretty inflated salary, too, on top of that, and brought in her own people at inflated salaries. I agree with you. I don't know that there's any, I don't know how we would weigh in on that. Let me think about that, Melanie. Look at city council motions and see if there's something that they're looking at doing, at taking in. I'll reach out to, is Drew here? No, Drew's not here. So I'll ask their office about that.
Drew just walked in.
She just walked in.
She's busy. So I don't know if you want to address that to her when she comes up here, Melanie.
Any other questions from around the table? A shot for anyone who has questions out in the audience. No hands. Lori, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lord. Craig, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 4, and that's elected government and public safety representatives. So, I think I saw our senior lead officers, and I also see Drew down there, or up there, or back there.
morning, everybody. Officer Bologna, Senior Lead Officer for Northwest San Pedro. I hope everyone is doing well.
Could you lift the mic? Yeah, there you go.
All right. Put the pitchforks down. No, but joking. But hello, everybody. Officer Bologna, Northwest San Pedro Senior Lead Officer. So I'll go over the crime stats very shortly, just because I know it's hard to hear about numbers and stuff. But robberies, we do have an increase from 1 to 3. This is comparing March to April. So in April, there was an increase to 3. Aggravated assaults, an increase from 6 to 10. Burglaries, we had a decrease from 11 to 3. So that is our sole improvement, but it's something. The motor vehicle thefts did increase though from 15 to 27. That's something that's been happening all over the area. We're seeing an increase, like a big increase, substantial increase throughout Harbor Division with that. Theft from motor vehicles, an increase from 12 to 16, and thefts increased from 17 to 19 for a total of a 25% increase in crime. However, I know that people don't like to hear about decreasing or increasing crimes, but I just went over some arrests that were made over in April at several different locations, and I figured that some of them were actually related to some of the incidents and the arrests that we're talking about, or the increase in crime. So we had multiple shoplifting arrests at Target at 1701 North Gaffey. And in the month of April, we were able to do direct resources to this location for a retail theft task force, which resulted in 2 arrests. And also we had 2 additional arrests in April for the shoplifting. So that is an area that officers look at. And specifically, we're directing those resources like the retail theft task force with our vice. Another location that was getting victimized a lot was the extra space storage that I spoke about, I think my previous time here. It was getting just burglarized in March. And although we didn't get a burglary suspect, we were able to get this extra patrol there. Officers approached this one individual that was looking suspicious. And long story short, he thought he would just leave right away. They were able to use a different route, catch him, stop him. And in the detention, they arrested him for narcotics possession. So they can't say he was going to do a burglary because they didn't catch him burglarizing anything, but maybe they prevented a burglary, and in the meantime, they were able to get a different arrest for the narco possession. Our gang officers were doing extra patrol, and they conducted a traffic stop on a vehicle. The investigation led to the arrest of a suspect, which was an ex-con for a firearm and brass knuckles. So that was a firearm taken off the street. Also, there's a grouping of burglary for theft for motor vehicles. Actually, it was like 15 of them, I think, or maybe even more, off of Mirror Lest. I don't know if you guys know about that one, but there was a radio call put out. It was like 15 or 16 victims, 1 stolen car, 15 cars that were broken into, and things were taken. But the officers did the report, and the very next day, the officers that did that report, found the vehicle that was stolen from that street, driving around a different part of San Pedro. They got into a brief pursuit. The pursuit ended, and multiple people were taken into custody. So that was a good job by those officers, because obviously, you take a report, you remember it, the next day, boom, you're able to do something about it. So that was good. Also, there was another arrest with a person that at a Wiener Schnitzel brandished a handgun at another customer that was waiting in line, and officers were able to speak to the victim. They did an extensive investigation, and with their knowledge that they had of the area, they were to kind of figure out who it was, go back to that person's house, get a warrant signed, do the warrant on the house, and then get him in custody and get another gun off the street. So that was good work by those officers. So all in all, again, great police work was accomplished, and it's just a glimpse. So this is just, in my area, I have like 6 or 7 reporting districts, and not only these arrests were only based off of about 3 or 4 of them, like half of them, and that's just a part of the arrests that were made. So that's like a few of them. So I'm just saying there's a lot of work being done, but this is just a glimpse of it. Upcoming events, we have the CPAB, the Community Police Advisory Board, on May 15th at Harbor Station, at 6 p.m. So please, if anybody would like to join that or be in attendance, I welcome you. And also, we're going to set up a coffee with a cop on June 19th at the Starbucks off of Western and Westmont. And that's going to be, again, on June 19th between the hours of 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. So please come on out and speak to some officers and just gain some knowledge and get to know the Harbor Police officers and all that good stuff. Is there any questions?
Okay, so I see a couple of hands up. Let's start with Chris, because I saw his first, and then Melanie.
Thanks. Two quick questions, one simple, one not so simple. You mentioned the repeated burglaries at the self-storage place. Do you know if there's any particular, I mean, I'm not sure how they're getting into the units, but are there things like in terms of choice of locks or anything that people can do to make their unit less desirable to that type of intrusion?
So I have spoken to the management of the extra space storage. I, advise them on certain, like, maybe this procedure, maybe we need to have a security here at nighttime, et cetera. It's more so, and I'm not trying to put the business down, but it's more so like on their policies and like, they should, I think that they should get a security guard there. But that main MO that was being in March, the individual, which detectives have kind of identified, so that's good too. And then they're going to he was already in custody and they're going to kind of add a bunch of stuff to him. So that's the good part. And then, but his MO was basically jump the fence and get in, and then basically just walk around and be free reign. And then obviously they would just take the locks off. So just get a really good lock. I mean, that's the big thing, right? Because they can get through the locks, but it really comes down to the management of the extra space storage and my talking to them with the video cameras, because the biggest weakness we had was once he made it into the building, they had no internal cameras. And so the district attorney is like, well, how do we know they did it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could put a bunch of photos together of him exiting and all this stuff, but it turned into a little tricky when there's nothing like showing them actually going in. So we tried talking to them, like, can you guys put some cameras up? All that stuff. I would say, I mean, my imagination here, but like a Ring doorbell on the interior of your unit, and then when it's motion activated, it will go off, and it's something. And you just got to check on it every couple of months to change a battery or something. But I don't know. That's like
that's actually not a bad idea. It's much cheaper than
Yeah.
replacing your stuff. The other question, again, this is a lot broader, but I know a lot of people in the harbor area are talking about potential economic difficulty related to activity at the port. Is Harbor Division anticipating or looking at any potential for increase in property crimes or any other kinds of crimes? Like, is there any sort of predictive quality to like a downturn in the economy equals a predictive upturn in kinds of crime?
So I could talk about that, but I can't give like an official statement on it, to be honest with you, because we haven't gone over that. But offline, I could talk to you. I mean, more than likely, it's like more of a historical thing where, like, times are tough. People are going to do other means to gain things, but nothing has been officially stated or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Melanie?
Just an update for you regarding the Great Garden Caper from Home Depot.
Okay.
So we had someone, we found out, that had a Home Depot cart, and I saw him on my cameras, full of plants, full of soil, big bags of soil just piled high. And she went down Berrywood dropping off plants and soil in everybody's yard. And everybody's like, where did this come from? We have these plants and soil in our front yard. And, oh, you have a pretty plant in your front yard, Melanie. And it's like, okay. So I contacted him and got a hold of Home Depot, seeing if they had a theft the night before, because it was in the middle of the night that she did this. And they're like, yeah, we had all kinds of soil and plants stolen. And I'm like, well, they're over here in everybody's yard, all up Berrywood. And so they said they were going to send somebody out. Nobody came, ever. So people are like, fine, I guess we aren't giving it back. It's got to be on these stores to take the initiative to file the reports. And, if people are reporting to them that they got their stolen goods and they don't want to come and collect them, we're being honest neighbors about this.
Yeah,
It's like,
I mean, that's a challenge we face is getting the businesses, especially the bigger businesses, that they look at a lot of small things, but at the end of the day, it adds up and it has an impact on the community. And that's the issue we have is like, come on, big business or some of these businesses, can you kind of pull your weight as well? So
yeah, because everybody, I told them, don't do anything with it. They're going to come and pick it up, leave it in the front of your yard for them to come along and get it. And then I got a message a few days later, and they're going, they aren't coming to get these things. I'm not going to leave these in my front yard any longer. And I'm like, forget it.
yeah, but I'm glad that they were able to do a report and all that good stuff, but that's a challenge. And I would assume, again, I'm just assuming, is that basically they couldn't find an employee to go get it and pick them up because they get into all these contract stuff. But I don't know. So, but no, it was good though that we were able to figure it out.
Okay, saw another hand, Vic, but before I call on Vic, Melanie, did you plant the plant?
No, it's still sitting in my front
Okay.
yard.
Okay. Look her up, please. Vic,
Regarding the extra space, they used to have individual an alarm system where each unit, when it opened and closed, or at least when it opened, would, if it wasn't already unlocked via the master, keypad alarm system, it would set off an alarm. For whatever reason, which I think is ridiculous, they got rid of that.
Yeah.
When I went over to the new one, I think it's called Secure Storage, that's on the other side of Home Depot. They also don't have cameras in the main walkways, and they claimed they have them facing the doors, but not down the main walkways. And they claim that it has to do with a privacy issue, which I also think is ridiculous. But that was their excuse, so that could be why Extra Space doesn't have them, but no guarantees. I haven't asked that question.
And I'm interested to see how that new storage place holds up,
Well, I've got other issues besides that, but, actually, it does have to do with theft, though. Especially on the lower floors, they've got open horizontal bars going across at the top, but no false ceiling to keep people from going through those, and they are wide enough apart where somebody could get through them to go inside. And so when I saw those, that kind of checked them off my list right away.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
one
they,
thing.
even the person who showed us around, because there were a few other people there too, said that she has brought that up to the higher up management, whoever that is, but so far nothing's been done. On the third floor, there's much less space, probably because it's close to the real ceiling, and it's better, but it's still open. I mean, I don't think anybody could fit through most of them, but that's an issue I have, is those two things, is the no cameras and the very easy to get through space in the bars on the lower floors.
Yeah.
okay. Any other questions for Senior Lead Officer Baloney around the table? Okay, I see no hands. So audience, I see one hand out. Lori.
Officer Russell, you're in trouble. No. I'm a volunteer at the library, at the San Pedro Library. It was closed for 9 months to do this beautiful renovation, and immediately they're having problems of crime around the parking lot. I'm supposed to be reading to young kids in the afternoon, and the parents don't feel safe bringing their kids there. I've seen posts on Facebook of people doing drugs along the wall, asking kids when the mothers are taking them to school in the morning. This is for Drew too, okay? Because they're saying that they're contacting police, and they're contacting, I don't know if they contacted Tim's office, but what a shame that children are afraid to go to the library. I'd like to know, I mean, I know resources are tough, but even if they know the times when these people are there and patrol it, they're having to clean up needles and other paraphernalia. It's really sad and disappointing. So I know it might be outside your area, but I'm just saying it is your area? Okay, so whatever can be done, the librarian's asking for it. Thank you.
So with the San Pedro Library, actually, I just for this past entire year, actually, it was a project. It was called a neighborhood engagement area, and basically it was a project for a whole year. So one of the other aspects that we do is we have SARAs and NEAs. So those are like complaints of quality of life, et cetera, and crime and things that we do to assess, address, and resolve. And basically, I had one for 10th and Gaffey, which included the 99-cent store that closed down. So my goal was to keep that area nice and tidy. I got in contact with the property owner. The graffiti that was showing up, you got to paint your walls, you got to do this, you got to get a camera up, you got to get security, you got to do this to keep that area clean. Then I was working with the shopping center across the street, the plaza right there, the 1000 South Gaffey, and those business owners, and then also the management at the library. So yes, they were closed the past 9 or so months, and we were patrolling there heavily. One of the issues is we had an individual. He's a drug dealer, and basically we arrested him, I think, 10 times in a year span. And he finally, this includes him fighting officers and evading and running away and all this stuff, right? And he finally went away, and so it really cleaned that area up for like the past, I'd say, year. And now he's back. So I've already, he just got back probably like last week or so. So like today I spoke with our narcotics unit. Gave them this individual's information. Our goal is to do undercover work, right? Because he usually has his friends with him. Due to his past behavior, we're going to have multiple officers do undercover work and kind of help out right there with that area. But it is something we're always on top of with the library. We check on there on a daily basis. Timing-wise, it's always challenging just because of the fact that, people have different schedules with, coming to and from the library. Another thing is I've been, had meetings with the library and other members of the community, and I kind of got on them about, like, why do you allow some of these people here? Why do you do this at the library? They take a very relaxed stance in terms of welcoming people into the library and kicking them out. It's very hard to kind of get, it's called a trespassing against them. Because their administrator, they're very, very lax there. But at any rate, I asked them to kind of maybe hire a different security guard to address the issues, because I've been there multiple times where the security guard is kind of allowing people to hang out in the rear alley or the rear parking lot back there. And I saw it a couple times, so I spoke to the manager. I spoke to the general services that contracts the private security through the city of LA, and I asked for the little switch with the security guard. So that should be happening soon. So although it won't be a project anymore because the project's now closed, I'm going to be doing a different location. Or I could do the same location. I'll decide. I think I have a week. I have to create a new one now. But we will take care of it, and we'll continue our patrols there. So, but it is something on one of our biggest and top priorities. So I work closely with, the manager and our officers to kind of make sure that area is nice and tidy. So.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the audience? Okay. Officer. Oh, I'm sorry.
How's the baby?
Oh, they're wonderful. Mother's Day was awesome. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Thank you for everything you do. Because the one thing I've really learned in the past couple years is the mamas hold it down. Because I sit there and I was like, man, this is tough. But no, the babies are good. I love them.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right. If there's nothing else, Officer Maloney, thank you so much. Thank you for being here, but thank you for being out there.
Of course, of course. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks.
And Drew.
Yeah, he's so tall.
I need some phone books here. Come on, guys. Hey, everybody. I'm going to try and make this as brief as possible. Do you guys want to hear about the budget at all? A little bit? Yeah? sound maybe a little bit relevant? Okay. I'm actually going to read from the opening of our newsletter this last Saturday because it has everything you need to know, and it was written very well. And so if you have any questions after, you can let me know. This last week, the Budget and Finance Committee continued their work on the mayor's proposed 2025-2026 budget, building on the previous week's departmental hearings. This past Monday, so that's last Monday, we concluded the individual hearings, which ended up being approximately 50 presentations from departments, bureaus, and offices over 5 days. During those hearings, the Budget and Finance Committee requested a couple hundred reports, mostly to investigate opportunities to preserve city services, avoid layoffs, and maintain critical programs. At the end of Monday's session, after nearly 7 hours, they ranked those memo requests to determine which required immediate attention, particularly those related to job preservation, potential revenue generation, or structural savings. Last Thursday, they held a 10-hour session focused on reviewing over 200 budget memos, tackling each issue one by one. They started with the largest components of the mayor's proposed budget: police, fire, homelessness, and housing. From there, they moved department by department, working to identify savings and account adjustments that could help offset proposed layoffs or service cuts. Our goal throughout has been to preserve essential services and day-to-day functions that our residents rely on. After making our preliminary determinations on the memos on Thursday, all of the tentative decisions are sent to the chief legislative analyst, who has a week to assemble what we call the rack-up version of the draft budget. This phase is crucially important. It's where we double-check every funding decision and ensure the budget is balanced while still reflecting our priorities. As we've worked through this budget, it's been devastatingly clear that while we can avoid some layoffs by moving funding from one area to another, we will have some level of layoffs in the new fiscal year. Every saved position or surface often comes at the cost of another function. Our challenge has been to strike a balance that protects the city's core services, such as streetlights, road issues, tree trimming, you name it, sanitation cleanups, without undermining fiscal stability. The Budget and Finance Committee will reconvene on Friday for the rack-up session. It's this coming Friday, where we'll finalize our version of the budget before it heads to the full City Council. Once the Council reviews and adopts the proposed budget, our edits will then be sent to the Mayor for final determination. The city workforce is LA's greatest asset, made up of dedicated people who provide the core services we count on every day. With our difficult economic outlook, it's more important than ever to explore every opportunity to retain skilled city employees, avoid layoffs, and preserve essential services amid ongoing fiscal challenges of the upcoming budget. On Tuesday, tomorrow, council member will introduce a motion directing the city administrative officer, CAO, and the personnel department to report weekly on creating a standardized process that allows for transfer, reassignment, or swapping of positions for employees at risk of layoff, creating opportunities for workers to go into existing vacant funded positions across all city departments, even DWP and the port, until we can bring them back to the city. Particularly where qualifications and civil service classifications align. By holding weekly meetings, which we expect will be in the Personnel Committee, we can help minimize service disruptions and support long-term recruitment, employee retention, and workforce development. The proposed budget will be heard in full council this next Wednesday, May 21st at 10 a.m., which will be for public comment, and on Thursday, May 22nd, for council action. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. I'm sure that's something that you want to know. The Department of Neighborhood Empowerment came and in their presentation talked about doing some offsets, so like moving funding around and shifting things in order to retain staff. So we are supportive of their offsets to retain staff and are looking for ways to make neighborhood councils more efficient. And yes, the Harbor Shelter will remain open. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Harbor Shelter. On March 28th, council member introduced the following motion, which I will read before you today. The City of Los Angeles is home to animal shelters that provide care and temporary housing for animals, including pets, stray animals, and those awaiting adoption or transfer. Maintaining sanitary conditions within these facilities is essential to prevent the spread of diseases, ensure the mental and physical well-being of the animals, and protect the health and staff of visitors. The cleanliness and proper sanitation of kennels are particularly important in preventing the transmission of zoonotic diseases such as kennel cough, giardia, and other contagious conditions, which can significantly impact the health of animals housed in these facilities. Previous concerns have been raised about the consistency and adequacy of the current cleaning procedures in some city-run shelters, suggesting a need for more standardized cleaning practices. The City of Los Angeles has a responsibility to uphold high standards of animal welfare and ensure that the cleaning protocols meet the needs of public health, safety, and the humane treatment of animals. I therefore move that the City Council direct the Department of Animal Services to produce a comprehensive report in 30 days detailing the current kennel cleaning procedures, including frequency, protocols, and any standards set forth by the City of Los Angeles. This report should also include any identified areas for improvement or additional resources required to meet the highest standards of cleanliness in animal care. Presented by Tim McOsker and seconded by Isabel Urado, who is the Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Community Enrichment Committee Chair. She is the councilwoman in the 14th District, and she oversees animal services. I know that volunteers have been very passionate about the conditions at the shelters. The councilman is doing everything within his power to hold them accountable. However, it's important to remember that he does not oversee or sit on the committee that oversees animal services. That would be CD 14's Isabel Urado, and we have been directing volunteers to work with her legislative staff in order to identify and advance policy priorities. The report is due back at the end of May, and we are tracking that report. So hopefully next month I'll be able to provide an update. And the last thing, and that council file number, in case you want to know, is CF 25-0343. And the final thing that Gwen asked me to touch on is there are some trees on Beacon across from San Pedro City Hall and a couple on Palos Verdes that are slated to be removed. The reason that and there's going to be a public hearing about them. The reason that they're slated to be removed is because there is a project, housing project that would be going into that site that would take down the current old Department of Mental Health building. It would take down the Green Onion and then the other buildings that are in there. So that block from Beacon to Palos Verdes, 6th to 7th. In order to do this redevelopment, they would need to take out those trees, and then they have assured me that they would be replanting these trees at a 2-to-1 ratio. And one of the things that I was able to secure was a commitment from them that they would postpone the removal of the trees until right before construction. I made it clear that the trees are such an important part of our community and of our ecosystem and of our environment that it would be a shame if the trees were taken down and something happened with the project and then we're left with no trees. So therefore I said, please wait, get your permit, that's fine. And then they agreed to wait until right before construction, after everything's closed, to take the trees down. So I consider that a win. Thank you. I'll keep working with them. I'll continue holding the developer accountable. But I think that that's something that will be good for all of us. And I'm happy to answer any other questions at this time.
Okay. If I can, I'm just going to make mention that removing those trees at the wrong time of the year impacts the nesting of all the birds that are using it for that. So I certainly hope that, and I'm not sure about the size and everything, but, you know, I cringe when I hear that things like that are going to be removed, and then it impacts our...
It is going to be in early 2026. The first quarter of 2026 is when they anticipate it. The problem is that it's on their private property. They're not public trees. And so they do, by right, have the ability to take them down. So they're showing good faith by working with us and agreeing to take them down later. Now, if the first quarter of 2026 is not the right time and there'd be a better time, I'm happy to hear it, and I'll work with them to take them down to prevent there being any nesting issues. So if anyone has that information, I'm happy to receive it.
Thank you. Okay, I saw some hands. Melanie, and I don't know, anyone else around? Craig? Okay, Melanie, go ahead.
So 2 things. The first thing is the June town hall. Do we want to mention that?
So the June Town Hall, thank you for reminding me. I received notice today that we are going to be putting on an emergency preparedness town hall. This town hall will include presentations from LA Fire Department's Community Emergency Response Team instructors. It will include a presentation from My Safe LA, from the Emergency Management Department of the City of Los Angeles, and the Emergency Management Department of Rec and Parks, all of which have very different things but very important things to talk about so that we can come away with a full understanding of how to rely on our city or ourselves in times of emergency. Unfortunately, we will have to reschedule this because a event downtown with the former ambassador of Croatia came into the councilman's calendar. So I'll be working with everyone to postpone it and find a better time that will work for everybody, because council member does want to be there for this.
Okay.
So thank you for reminding me. I planned on setting out an email tomorrow. I wanted to get some alternate dates before I set it and sent that email, but thank you to the neighborhood councils for stepping up and co-sponsoring. I appreciate it.
Then the other thing I have for you, I hope that Tim is going to be advocating for neighborhood councils for the budget for us to not have our council funds decreased. The decrease to 25,000 from 32,000 that we have is a decrease from the original 45,000 that neighborhood councils started with prior to COVID. We have a letter and a CIS that were up for approval tonight. But that amount of money is approximately $780,000 across neighborhood councils for 99 neighborhood councils. That impact, based on the LA City budget, is such a trickle in the bank that that money should not be taken away and considered something that's going to balance the budget or be anything effective. The only thing it's going to do is hurt neighborhood councils to be able to do anything like the grants we're doing tonight. We will not be able to do them if we do not have more than $25,000. Out the gate, our expenses are $16,000 for operation. We will not be able to do hardly anything in the community if we are cut. And that will be the same for all 99 neighborhood councils.
It's really challenging, and we're, as a council office, we're facing reductions as well. And we're looking at a 15 to 20% reduction in the grants that we're able to provide for special events in the community. So all of us across the board are hurting. Nonetheless, I'll still elevate your comments to our legislative team, and I'll share it with Tim. But I just want you to know that everybody is facing some sort of cut one way or another.
But the thing is, they get $4 million in volunteer money from neighborhood council board members. They're saving $4 million plus in the amount of hours in volunteerism that they get. $780,000 is a microscopic amount in a bucket. They shouldn't be balancing the budget on the back of volunteers and neighborhood councils when we are giving back to the community, and the community loses if we lose the money.
Do you want to send us a letter on that?
Huh?
Do you want to send us a letter from the neighborhood council
We
on
have
that?
a big letter that's going
Okay,
on the agenda tonight.
great.
Okay, taking him the way I see him, Craig, you're next.
I'm really surprised. This is huge. This is $1 billion shortfall.
700 million, but yeah.
They cover everything up, but it's whatever. This is the hugest shortfall without an economic decline that I've ever seen. Now, we may have one coming, which means the shortfall will be even larger. But what we don't have is accountability. Okay, they're talking about, oh, we're not going to lay off anybody in this. We're not going to try and lay off people in the city. We're going to put them in sanitation. So that means our sanitation bill goes up. They're going to put them in everything else. But what they're not telling us, and what we're not hearing from Drew, and we're not hearing from Tim, is you had this budget from last year. You said that it was a balanced budget. And it's in the hole.
Do you want to know why?
Can I finish?
Sure.
I know why.
Okay.
It's because they keep saying, oh, this is going to give us more, this kind of revenue, and this is going to give us this kind of revenue, and we can put our money into it, and we'll pay for this, that, and the other thing, and it doesn't come true. I've studied the budget. I've been on as a budget advocate. The problem is we're all sitting here, and why people are coming here and saying, oh, we need money for animal services and neighborhood councils, is because money is being thrown away on a continuous basis. We've seen what happened with the fires. We saw what's happening with the homeless situation, and nobody's being held accountable. And what do? They tell us these stories about going to other places. Oh, look at this, look at this. You know, we're going to try and do something about animal services. You know, I want to do something about animal services, but I wanted to do it about it before they spent all this money.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Craig. Next hand I saw was Diana, and then Maria, and then...
Do you want me to address the reasons for the
yeah, I
shortfall?
just want to make sure that people are being recognized, but yes, please
Sure.
respond.
Sure. So there are a few issues. The first thing is weakened revenue sources. There was less than projected revenue that was expected. Second, lawsuits were settled for adjudicated for $300 million instead of the $80 million that was budgeted. And some of that comes from lawsuits that were originally adjudicated maybe, several years ago and had like payments, and then the last large payment was due this coming year. So that's about $220 million over budget. The forest fires, the wildfires, unfortunately cost the city a lot of money, about $300 million. And then raises that were negotiated by the unions for LAPD, fire, and civil servants was costing another $250 million. So they're working with the unions on seeing if they'd be willing to pause some of the raises, but if the answer is no, then we have to figure out other ways to do it. In terms of moving people over, let's say the Bureau of Street Lighting doesn't have enough funding. Instead of letting go all those people and it taking 3 years to get your streetlight fixed, we move those people over to DWP so they can continue the work. And then when we have the money to be able to hire them back that's coming from a pending assessment, hopefully that goes through, we'll be able to bring them back and put them back in place. It's much harder to hire people on once you've eliminated those positions and people from city employment than to pull them back from a transfer to another department. These are about critical services and highly skilled people that we are hoping to keep and reduce layoffs to a fraction of what they are under the mayor's budget.
Diana, then Maria, then Lori, then Pat.
No, I can hear you.
Yes. No.
Yes.
Please.
I actually was going to make this comment with respect to the letter on the neighborhood council funding, but given that it's come up now, I think it's appropriate to make it now. It seems to me that one of the ways to, one of the things that should be done is that this neighborhood council elections should be returned to the neighborhood councils. And the funding for neighborhood council elections, that's got to be very expensive for what they get out of the city clerk running it. So a way to keep the funding for the neighborhood councils would be to return that function, but keep the funding there as well. Thank you.
Okay. Maria? Can you come up to the...
She's commenting on what you said. She has a question about what you said.
For the record, please state your name too.
Maria Trizoli. Okay, so I have a question regarding what Craig was saying, which I totally agree on, where we're looking for the funds and where we're getting this $25,000 and stuff like that. How come we have called our group here working with animal services and stuff like that for 7 to 8 months, had not gotten one response from Tim McCoskey, not one phone call, not one email, but then there's different nonprofit organizations that were given $25,000 for their profit organization, and then they were given another $5,000, and they were giving just more money for their nonprofit organizations. Now, we talked about the animal shelter, and the person that was given.
Could you go back closer to the mic, please?
Yeah, the person that was given the $25,000, the nonprofit, they also work with animals. So Harbor Shelter, as you see, we have the posters when we come up and talk and stuff, you'll see the conditions of the shelter. These animals are suffering, they're dying, they're sick, and where's that money that is not showing up? You know, we have called for 7 to 8 months and not gotten one response back. Not one response.
Can you tell me what number you called?
I don't have it by hand, but I have it in my phone.
I'll give you my card.
Okay. And I also talked to Drew because there was a mistake where we called and Tim McCoskey's office told us that they were not part of CD 15, which is Harbor Animal Shelter. Okay. So I spoke to Drew and she cleared it up and she said that no, someone made a mistake on that and they are. But that went back and forth, where again, these animals are suffering. They're not getting fed, but we'll go to that. That's a different subject. I just wanted to agree there with Craig because I just don't understand where this $25,000 is coming from here and there and going to other people, but the council's not getting it and they need it to help everybody else out. The animal shelter's not getting it and we need it to feed the animals. They're getting fed once a day. In case you guys think they're getting fed twice a day, they're getting fed once a day. Okay? So when a dog goes from 77 pounds in 3 months to 37 pounds and that's a husky, we got a problem. We got a problem. And that's not what California wants.
So, Maria, I'm sure you're gonna have an expanded amount of time so that you can talk about what you're finding at animal shelter. If there's a response, that's fine, but you've voiced it during the thing. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And thank you, Craig.
Hi, so I would like to I'll give you my card. I'd like to know who was calling our office for 7-8 months and didn't get a reply because I responded to approximately 48 emails over the last few months from volunteers. Every email that came into my inbox was answered, and we've received that allegation before. I've combed my inbox. I've answered every single one. At the end of every day, I work to keep my inbox to 5 or fewer read but open emails so that I can address issues. I furthermore looked in the council members' inbox. We did not find these emails. So I really want to let people know that we are out there. We are meeting with volunteers. We are meeting with concerned citizens. There was one phone call that I had with a concerned person from San Diego. I spent over an hour on the phone explaining the situation, explaining our position. Unfortunately, she took that information, twisted 90% of what I said, and then started spreading that misinformation. Earlier, I mentioned that CD14, who's led by Isabel Urado, is the councilwoman who oversees the Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Community Enrichment Committee. That committee oversees animal services. The councilman does not sit on that committee, and therefore he doesn't wield the same kind of power as Councilwoman Urado. We've directed volunteers and concerned community members, as I said earlier, to speak with her office to advance their legislative priorities. So when I said that the oversight of the animal shelters is with CD14, it's because Isabel Urado is in CD14. I never said that the animal shelter was not within CD15. So I was able to clarify that with some volunteers, although unfortunately, due to the misinformation spread from that one phone call, the damage has been done. Pedro Pet Pals was given $25,000 by County Supervisor Janice Hahn, not from Tim McCosker. He did, however, donate $5,000 to Pedro Pet Pals, and he has donated almost $100,000 to other nonprofits throughout the city. He's also given $5,000 to San Pedro Music Festival, to Music by the Sea, a variety of different things. And that money is given to council members in order to disseminate only to nonprofit organizations. That money does not come from the same pot as the money that is allocated in the budget to animal services. So he is not able to use that money and give it to the animal shelter. He is, however, able to advocate for a larger budget for the animal shelter, which is what he's continued to do throughout this budget process, including saving the shelter from closing. So it's important that I know it's important to recognize the passions that people have for these animals. I myself have a dog. I love animals. I want them to be treated fairly. But it's also important to recognize the full picture and also to be in open communication. So Maria, I'm happy to stick around and talk to you, but it's also important to be transparent with the efforts that we've put forth within our office. And I am Drew, by the way.
Okay.
I'm Drew. Yes.
We have Lori, and then we have Chris, then Pat, then Emma, and then Kelly.
Drew, I read every day Tim's updates, his very detailed, transparent updates on the budget. I appreciate it. Please pass this on to him. And I have never gone more than an hour without you replying to one of my text messages or emails. So there's a gap, a miscommunication there somehow. Tim put his motion through to help with the conditions of the animal shelter well before the budget information even came out. So I know he was already researching that and looking at that. One thing I want to say as a stakeholder, I don't agree necessarily with what was said here. I think cutting the neighborhood council budget is a reasonable thing. We all have to take some hit here. I'd rather see some people save their jobs. Okay, I think neighborhood councils are very capable of managing their work with $25,000. If it's an area where they can't afford their meeting space or whatever, Dunn can work with them. The city can work with them. So don't assume because that said that everybody necessarily agrees with that. Diana's comment was very good about the elections. That could save a lot of money. But one question I did have for you is you were talking about how they were, if I understood this right, they're trying to take some people whose positions may be laid off and apply it to what's a vacant position. But what I heard in the state of the city is that all vacant positions would be immediately eliminated. So has that been changed, that maybe they're going to try and rearrange things, and that isn't necessarily that all vacant seats would be eliminated?
Correct. So every budget, every department has submitted their offsets, which means, well, we're going to move money from this project into this project, and therefore it'll create some more funding for positions. And then what will happen with the layoffs is the person with the least seniority would be let go first. And then that would create, basically, the whole thing's like a game of Tetris. That would create a vacancy once they're let go. And then the person that's above them would move down and then over. And then the whole thing is like playing Tetris once there are layoffs to try to move people into other positions that they are qualified for or the next level down. There are some places where the port is not funded by the general fund. I think the Bureau of Engineering is not funded, takes part, has most of its money coming from the fees, from planning. And then there's also DWP. There are different departments that are not funded by the general fund. So they're not affected by this current budget. And therefore, if we can move people into positions that are funded, that are there, we can retain them, and hopefully they'll want to come back when we have those positions back up.
Don't envy being on the budget and finance committee.
Yeah. Thankfully, the council staff are going to be okay, so I'll continue to give reports. But we will see a reduction in our budget in terms of what we can offer to the community in the next year.
Thank you. Chris.
Thanks. And I think this mostly was maybe covered by Lori's question, but it's just a clarification. You mentioned how long, and it makes sense, how long it takes to hire anybody or rehire somebody for a position. And so am I correct in interpreting what you're saying is that they will use existing funded positions to try and offset potential layoffs, and that would be based on, I guess, the current budget, which has already been approved. So if a position exists, nobody's in it, but there's funding, they might move someone rather than let them go because it's easier than getting them back.
Right. And in terms of eliminating all those vacant positions, that was in the mayor's budget. And the council office is working on how to maintain some of the ones to preserve critical city services. So there will be some vacant funded positions that we can move people into at the end of this. If the mayor accepts, first of all, the council has to vote on it. And if they vote to approve the council's version, then they'll send it back to the mayor and the mayor has to approve it. But for example, with animal services, the mayor put there was going to be a closure of the 3 shelters, but then allocated $1 million to our district, to Councilmember McOsker, for improvements to the shelter. So it's like, why close it and then give us $1 million to improve it? So, so we were able to find, thankfully Councilmember was able to find a way to keep all of the shelters open.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Pat?
Drew, two questions and then a comment. The first one has to do with the Harbor Department budget. Harbor Commission adopts its own budget, as you know, but then it gets added to or incorporated into the city overall budget. Has the city council or budget committee done an analysis of the impacts this coming year on things like the tariff and other prognostications in the port, so that it would affect the port's ability to take on employees from other departments, number one, and then for some kinds of discretionary things that the port occasionally does, for example, street repairs caused by truck damages in areas like Wilmington particularly. Are they going to be able to fund and pay for those, plus anything that's discretionary or add-ons on all the numerous projects that the port already is committed to in and around the port? So that's one thing, looking forward as to whether they're going to be able to do that. The second one is somewhat related, and that has to do with the city pensions, police and fire and employee pension funds. As you know, but council may not know, the city charter has a requirement that the city's general budget make up any shortfalls in the pension funds, and sometimes they've been hit with several $100 million in shortfalls. So I'm looking forward at the economic impact. If there's going to be an economic impact to the assets of the pension funds going forward, are you looking at and incorporating that kind of hit on the city budget going forward? And the last one is a comment. The neighborhood councils were supposed to be kind of self-directing and make their own rules and things like that. Personally, I see very little value added by DUN or the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment or BONC, and so they ought to lighten up and let us do our own thing.
Okay.
I'll look into those things and get back to you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of the port, so I'm not the port liaison. I do imagine that the tariffs will create some sort of impact. I don't know what those are, but I will both speak to our port liaison and Lee Williams, who is our local commissioner, and see if maybe he can come to next month's meeting to address some of these concerns. And then I'll also look into the pension, if that's been figured into the budget.
Pension board should be able to tell the city council.
Yeah.
Drew, if
Yes.
you're going to mention it to the port commissioner that is out of this area, I would like to suggest that you also ask the port to maybe send a representative occasionally, because that guy has just shut us off. And that's,
Augie?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is that's unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll pass it along.
Thank you. Let's see, Emma?
Hi. First of all, Drew, I just want to thank you for kind of coming here and answering all these questions. I know it's a challenging position to be in, to answer for the kind of wider issues that are clearly going on within the city. My question, I'm just kind of coming into focus as to some of the more systemic causes of the budget shortfall. And one of the things what I wanted to ask you about, so the city is on the hook for $258 million in liability payouts. Some of that has to do with lawsuits pertaining to broken sidewalks, which to me seems also an indication that kicking the can down the road is only going to cost us in the long run. 40% of those payouts have to do with negligence or undue use of force by the LAPD. That seems to me like a staggeringly high percentage, and as a result, a staggeringly high amount of money. So I'm just wondering, in addition to all the shuffling and reshuffling that's being done to make sure that the city can function, has there been any discussion as to what measures can be taken to bring those numbers down in the longer term? Thank you.
So one of the things that the mayor went to Sacramento about last month was to lobby for a limit to liability payouts. Just as if you're in a car accident, the payout that you get is limited to the policy limits of that insurance. Because we are self-insured, there is no policy limit. So a jury could award somebody $1 billion, $2 billion and just decimate the city. We see that with the county. They just agreed to a $4 billion settlement over abuse that happened in their juvenile prisons, which will significantly impact the county's budget for the next 20 years. So that is one thing that I know that the mayor has done, going up to Sacramento to lobby for a limit to liability payouts. Does LAPD, I don't know what LAPD is doing in order to address the issues that are leading to those liability payments. In terms of sidewalks, it's an issue, and I will admit it, and I am frustrated just like everybody else that I put in for a sidewalk repair, and unless it's for somebody that has a disability, it's just going to go into a log and they're going to kick it back out and say it's on the adjacent property owner. Councilmember McOsker is of the opinion that if the uplifting is caused by a city tree, the city should be repairing it. Having that opinion doesn't necessarily equate to having the ability to do it. But know that we do support you, and I do see those sidewalks, and I know where every single one of them are. Before this position, I worked for a personal injury attorney here and sued the city for lots of money on these sidewalk repairs, and so I know it from both sides.
Okay. This is getting really long, the questions, and we do have a large agenda, so I want to make sure that
So what I can do is I can stand over there in the corner or stand out in the foyer if anybody wants to come and talk to me.
I want to give the two people who I've recognized the opportunity, but anyone else after this, please take it to Drew offline. So we need to move our agenda. So Kelly and then Gwen will be the last one publicly, but please take your other comments.
I just wanted to say thank you. I can't imagine standing here and have to tell people all the stuff that I've been reading about all the different budget stuff and all the stuff and trying to keep all those figures in your head. And thank you for reading it from something that was correlated and put together so that we didn't have to stumble through it. I just appreciate, you being here and giving us the information and everything. It's not pretty. It's not nice. It's not going to be fun. The fires did a lot of damage, and it's going to linger for a long time. And from the sidewalks and everything else, it's just complicated, but thank you.
Thank you. I care about you guys. I really do. For those of you who don't know, I was on the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council for a couple of years before starting this position. So I know what it's like to be on your side of the table. And I don't even remember getting council updates. So I try to provide what I can, help where I can. If I don't have the answer, I'm not ashamed to say I don't know, and I'll get back to you. But it's also, sometimes I may speak passionately. It's because I have information that I want to share. So,
And you're good at getting cookie frosting.
Thank you.
Gwen, you're next, but I just want to key off of Kelly, what you said. Your job is not easy, and I've had the opportunity to actually be in your position when I was a representative for Gloria Molina as one of her field deputies when she was in office. Getting up here in front of, you don't know whether it's hostile or someone that you can rely on from the community, but it's a tough job. And it's really, I really give Drew and anyone else who stands in front of that podium, coming and talking to us because, we all have our positions and so on. So Drew, I'll say it again, because I know I've mentioned it to you before, but thank you so much for being here and doing your work.
Thank you.
Gwen, you got the last public word, and like I said, if you have anything else, please see Drew off to the side.
Well, actually, I'm glad that you talked about you talked about your involvement with the neighborhood councils and that you actually went on to become part of the city. One of the things that is discussed in this letter that's going to be voted on is that many of the people in the neighborhood councils end up in valued positions all through the city, and that should be something that is reinforced. That the value of this particular program is in engagement, recruitment, education, you name it. needs more of it, not less. Now, a point is that from 32,000 to 22 and odd change, that's actually a 22% cut. That's beyond what you were talking about, a 10% to 15% cut in your area. And 15 to 20? Yeah. So with that, I'm just going to say that I just came from a garden managers meeting for the LA Community Garden Council. And everyone talks about the value of the neighborhood councils, the grants that they receive from it. They get small micro grants, and they engage with the city, the neighborhood councils, and it is an incredibly amazing program for greening the city, bringing food. It's an environmental justice issue, and I can say that for all of the little grants that are going to these things, that they rely on funding like that. There was a whole training on funding and grants and finding that. And the neighborhood councils is both neighborhood engagement, really hyper-local, and, they were praising the neighborhood councils. So there's a few things in here that are talking about that. But if you really take that math and you also include that all of the other city agencies within the city of Los Angeles had their budgets restored to pre-COVID levels, neighborhood councils did not. So you might as well add that to the percentage of the actual cut to the neighborhood councils. So we want more to do, and we believe that we could be part of the budget cuts in a very engaged way, and that we actually should be supported in being able to distribute information. I mean, everything that you're talking about, we should actually have more media dispersal, a message for each thing. Volunteering over at the city at the city shelters, what they need, their laundry list. Our social media should be utilized all across all 99 councils. And so I hope that you look at our letter really carefully, because there's a lot of stuff.
Will do. Thank you. I was also on the MPG committee one year, so I do know how that works. And I want to speak to neighborhood councils and bringing people up. I want to talk about Alonzo for a moment. Alonzo, God bless him, came up to the councilman at a Central San Pedro neighborhood council meeting several months back, and he said, I want to get involved in politics. And I said, all right, I have a place for you. And I asked him, I said, where do you live? And he said, Northwest. I said, thank God. Because Central would have chewed him up and spit him out, poor thing. No, I love Central San Pedro. Hey, how'd you get here? I just saw you at the committee meeting. And Alonzo's now joined this neighborhood council. So he's living proof that it works. You go up to your councilman, you say, I want to get involved. Here is a way for you to get involved. And he's sitting here and he's been at every meeting. So thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you to all of you for providing this for our next generation.
He's a good guy, and we're lucky to have him.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. That is the end of our agenda item number 4, elected governmental and public safety representatives. Thank you, Officer Slow. I saw him rush out of here to go do something official, I think. And Drew, thank you very much for being here. So we're going to move on to agenda item number 5, consent calendar. We have 3 items. The approval of minutes for the April 14th stakeholder meeting, the appointment of Christina Calandra to the Community Issues Committee, and the appointment of Christina Calandra as the Animal Shelter Liaison. So with that, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second, Norman.
And any public comment? I saw your hand go up, Maria. Did you want to make a comment about? Okay. Any other comments? Yes? No? For these agenda items? Okay. Go ahead. Take roll call.
John Barbera.
Yes.
Vic Christensen, aye. Craig Goldfarb.
Aye.
Cynthia Gagne.
Yes.
Alonzo Jenkins.
Yes.
Melanie Lebrecq.
Yes.
Kayla Miller.
Yes.
Kane Nicholas.
Yes.
Thomas Norman.
Yes.
Ray Regalado,
Yep.
Michael Signorelli,
Yes.
Angela Sumner,
Yes.
Chris Valle.
Yes.
Okay, that's 13.
All right, thank you. Moving on, agenda item number 6, Budget and Finance Committee. That will be overseen by Melanie. Melanie, you want to take over?
Yeah, so first we'll turn to page, find it here, page 12 and 13, which is the MER. This is out of committee, so any discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. Thomas?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
John Barbera?
Aye.
Victor?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Gail isn't here. Craig?
Yes.
Aye.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And Michael?
Yes.
The next is the budget. It's on page 14. And this is out of committee. Any discussion? Okay, Thomas?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
John?
Yes.
Victor?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Craig?
Aye.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
The next isn't on here. It's the motion for $100 to approve our Canva license that we have to pay for the reinstatement of it for this month for a year. Out of committee, Thomas?
Aye.
John?
Yes.
Victor?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Craig?
Abstain.
Cynthia? Yes. Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Okay. Next item is on page 15. You'll see a council file on the front. And then on the back is a letter. And this letter's long.
Which page?
Huh?
Which page?
On 15 and 16.
Thanks.
This is regarding what I was just discussing with Drew about the budget. Basically, you know, from where we started before COVID with $45,000 or 50,000, excuse me, and then we went down to 45. And then at COVID, they reduced us down to 32.
No.
And then while the other city budgets got increased back to their norm after COVID, neighborhood councils have been left at 32. Now they're proposing that we be reduced to 25. We do a lot. Neighborhood councils do a lot. And with 1,703 board members across 99 neighborhood councils, you times that by minimum wage and at least 3 hours a week that a neighborhood council board member donates to the city, you come up with a donation of $4,731,547.08 that we contribute yearly to the city for free through neighborhood councils. It's sad because it comes up to about $780,000 that through all 99 that they're taking back to put back in the budget. That's a trickle in the bucket. And they're hurting our community engagement. They're hurting what efforts we put into doing the events that we do in the community, our outreach events. We will be limited. Won't be able to do things like we do for Peck Park here. We've given things to them in the past to help for our free meetings here. We've done, things in the community. That's going to be limited. And all neighborhood councils are going to suffer that. And then on top of it, at the budget and advocate meeting, it was said that Bloomfield approached Carol Chang, the head of Empower LA, and said, I hear that budget advocates are advocating for all your rollover funds to be given back to the city, that you aren't going to take your rollover funds to neighborhood councils this year. And he said, we never said that to Carol Chang. And she says, oh, because Bob Bloomfield suggested that. And he goes, oh, no. He says there's going to be war if you take the neighborhood council's rollover money, too. So, yeah, so this letter is important, very important. It's out of committee. We do have a friendly edit here that you have in front of you. Some of the things we've looked it over, Victor and I, some of the things we'll accept, some of the things we are not on the edit. One of the things, Victor, will you go over the edits, please, the editor?
Yeah, from an editorial standpoint, generally all of them are fine. The first and third bullets were switched, so there's some rearrangement of words, but not a lot of actual word changes for the first three bullets. The only thing that really needs to remain is, other than just some really technical editorial things, is on the amendment, what is the fourth bullet, the city of Los Angeles needs to stay as the city of Los Angeles to distinguish it from the county, because the population quoted is for the city, not the county. Other than that, some of the changes were already made before this was submitted. But other than that, they're generally
And also,
acceptable.
also honorable is not appropriate for Los Angeles City Council members, so we will not be using that. But how do we handle this, Ray? We're accepting the edits. We aren't, all of them except for this and the changing of LA County and city, because it's LA City numbers that she had down there. So what do we do?
Are they substantial enough to require an amendment,
If they're
or
a
can we
friendly
call them
amendment, we
editorial?
could just substitute them if accepted.
Yeah, just vote on it and accept it as is with the friendly amendments?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that then. So, with those, you have a copy of the amendments in red in front of you, singularly in front of you. And pretty much everything except honorable is, we're going to amend, and where it says the city.
The city of will remain and not be struck through like it shows on the
Yeah.
edits.
So, other than that, we'll accept the other amendments as friendly amendments. So, if everybody's good with that, we'll vote on this. So, any more discussion? Oh, Thomas?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for your work on this. I just wanted to highlight being strongly in favor of this. If we, as an economist, I look at this, it really would be about $95 million before the purchasing power, or seeing the budget now being reduced to this level, it's much greater than you're even stating if we look at the purchasing power from what's envisioned, and yet the requirements on us have gone up. We've just had a member not be able to be seated because of training. So I've seen more and more requirements, so those aren't added to the economic costs. And minimum wage at $17.81, even our student members, a lot of students I know often go to work for more than that amount. So with all due respect for those who think everybody needs to take their cuts, I think they should be very minimal. There is a huge amount of volunteerism, and I think the amount of volunteerism has probably fallen over the history of the neighborhood councils, partly because of the lack of respect and looking for ways to take the city out of it and let us do our own work, our own elections, and less regulation, I think, would allow us to be more powerful. So just wanted to speak strongly in favor. Thank you.
Chris?
Yeah, thanks. I'd just like to say briefly, and I take under advisement comments to the effect that everybody, every department, everybody who's attached to the city budget is going to have to take a hit. And I believe that's true, but I also believe at the same time we've already taken that hit. We did it with COVID. And, we're, if they're talking about reducing us essentially to half of what we were originally allocated, yes, we can still function. I don't think that there'll be too many people who do less or do worse, but I think, and again, ultimately, if you just look at the size of the $1 billion hole, 780 grand is not going to fix it. And if we're what stands between that and financial success, then fine, we'll take the hit. But I think that, we've already kind of given up a little bit.
Yep. Angela?
I just want to thank you for putting this together and commend you for drawing attention to the value of the volunteer work. I think that really makes the point.
Well, Gwen had a part in it too. It's a combined effort. All of us, it was a team effort to do this letter. And it's just, when you start crunching these numbers, you go, oh my God, and get the accurate numbers, because we went deep diving, Vic did, and John did, and everything, to get the accurate 100% numbers of how many numbers were in neighborhood councils. And then we dug deep into what minimum wage actually was, and then dug deep into how much average each neighborhood council was doing hours weekly. And then when we hit this number of 4 million, I was just like, that's free money to the city. It's like, come on, you guys.
Cynthia has a question.
So anyway, any more comments? Cynthia?
Melanie, why can't we also include in this motion to say if you need to cut us, and they might really need to cut us, to have it mitigated to lessen what they're cutting us, instead of just saying, no,
To have
you
what?
can't cut us or else. To mitigate it, that instead of saying you can't cut us at all, say if we need to have that cut made, can you make it less of a cut? And just, not just say no, but give them an out that they might let us have a little bit more money.
Can I respond?
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, and in general, that's an idea, but I think possibly use a cliche, aim high and let them come back with a lower number.
Exactly.
If we tell them it's okay to go with the lower number, then they're going to try that. But if we shoot for what we really want, which means zero reduction, then let them come back and justify, well, I don't know about justify, but let them come back with a number. Don't give them an out to come back with it in our letter. That's my opinion.
I agree. That's what I was going to say too. Anybody else? Okay, so call for the vote. Thomas?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Victor?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And Michael?
Yes.
And I think you can vote on this, Alonzo, because it's not a funding matter. It's Alonzo?
Yes.
Okay.
Why can't we cut the number of?
All righty. So, next is the grants. So the first grant we have is, so first, before I start this, one of the things I want to say is the people that showed up, we had a large number that showed up, community members and board members that showed up, and we were able to take and divide all of this and go through and have a score sheet for each grant that was submitted. And then we made sure that all the criteria was met, all the dates were correct, everything was correct, and those that didn't fill their applications out right or meet the criteria had a pile over here, and those that did
Then we had another pile, and then we voted how to divide it, what they were asking for, and how to divide it up. And that's how we came to and had a score sheet for all this stuff. So this is what we came up with. So the first one is International Bird Rescue, and their criteria is in here, and that is for $500. So any discussion? Okay, call for the vote. Thomas?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
John Barbera?
Aye.
Vic?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Gil's absent. Craig?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And Michael? Is he here?
Away. He stepped away.
He just stepped out.
Where'd he go?
Okay.
Okay, I guess.
All right.
Point of information. Is it required that we vote by?
We have to vote on each one.
We have to vote individually.
Because
Can't do it
certain,
as a slate.
he has to recuse himself.
Oh, could we vote for all of the ones except the ones
No,
that could be recused?
for assistance leave.
All right.
And we're required to have a vote count sheet for each one of them.
Okay. Thank you.
St. Peter Ballet, $1,000. Any discussion? And this will be for the mural that's on the side of the wall. We're going to help pay for the graffiti coating on it. So, Thomas?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
John Barbera?
Yes.
Vic?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes. Yes.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Next is for LAMI. It's the Los Angeles Maritime Institute for $1,000 for their scholarship program. So Thomas?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Vic?
Aye.
Ray?
Yep.
Craig?
I'm sorry, there's a lot of, can you restate that?
It's for Los Angeles Maritime Museum, or Maritime Institute, I mean, for their sail program.
I'm sorry,
For-
it's just there's so much
I know.
talking back here. Can, Mr. President, can you quiet the room so we can hear?
Back there, the conversation that's going on in the back. could
Also,
we-
the door needs to be
Can we take it out?
This conversation was.
Hello? Hello?
Hello. Conversations in the back. Please stop or go out the door.
It's for the Los Angeles Maritime Institute for their scholarship program that they do for Title I kids to do the sailing.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
Yes? Okay. Cynthia?
Yes.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And Michael?
Yes.
Next is Park Western Elementary School. And it's for $2,000, and this is going to be to replenish the books in their school library. Thomas?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Vic?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Melanie? Yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Okay, next is for Many Winners Gathering. And this is the Indian tribal event that happens over at Angel's Gate every year. And this is for $1,000. Any discussion? Thomas?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Victor?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Craig?
Abstain.
Cynthia?
I'm sorry, what was it for?
For the mini winners gathering, it's at Angels Gate. We've given it to it in the past. It's a tribal or thing for a weekend for the Indians where the elders come together, and it's for everybody all in the community and all over that come, and they have a big event, all weekend event.
Yes.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Next is for Feed and Be Fed. Huh? After we're done with this, we've got to continue with the voting. Feed and Be Fed for $1,000. This is to rebuild their chicken coops.
No. New chicken coops.
Any discussion? Thomas?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
John? Barbera?
Yes.
Victor?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And Michael?
Yes.
And then the last one is Assistance League. Bye.
No, I'm not wanted.
You have to state why you are recusing and then leave the room. You need to say why you are recusing.
I'm leaving because I just can't take it anymore. I gotta leave because I'm part of the Assistance League.
Yeah, he wanted to get rid of it.
So note that John left at 7:53. So this for Assistance League for their school bell program that provide for Title I kids backpacks and school clothes. $1,500. Any discussion? Thomas?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
John? Oh, wait.
Recused.
Recused. Duh. Vic?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Okay, John can come back.
Okay, could someone get John, please?
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We all done.
We're going to move on to the next section, and this is Planning and Land Use and Port Committee. Oh, that's right. You wanted to make a comment? And on which item are you going to be making a comment on?
I'm making a comment on the MPG awarded to the Many Winters Gathering of Elders.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Sorry, I'm making a comment regarding the MPG just awarded to the Many Winters Gathering of Elders.
Okay.
So, good evening. My name is Emma Ralt. I'm just here on behalf of the Many Winters Gathering of Elders, first of all, to thank you for once again supporting this important local event. As we're all aware, it's a tough funding landscape right now, locally, nationally, et cetera. So it makes it all the more important for different community organizations to come through for each other and support each other. So once again, your support is much appreciated. And I just wanted to make two quick announcements. So first is a save the date. So this year's Many Winters Gathering of Elders is going to be held the second weekend of October, Thursday through Sunday. That's October 9th through 12th. So just for a little bit of context, this is an annual intertribal indigenous event that's been going on here in San Pedro since the 90s. It has elders and representatives from tribes and nations all over California and the country coming together over 4 days to share teachings, songs, cultural activities. It is free of charge. It's open to the public. School groups come from all over LAUSD. And also 3 meals a day are served to anyone in attendance, also free of charge. And that's what we'll be using this funding towards. And the first volunteer meeting for the gathering is coming up on May 21st. And that's going to be held up at Angels Gate in Building G from 6:30 through 8 p.m. So that's, I believe it's next Wednesday. And I just want to reiterate, everyone is welcome. We need as much help as we can get. Many Winters is held under the banner of Angels Gate, but it is comprised entirely of volunteers. And it is entirely a labor of love for everyone who's involved. So we will need help with things like fundraising, but then also coordination, logistics, and on-site support throughout the event. So if you think that you have time and skills to give, please come along to that meeting. And I'm unable to stay through the end of this meeting tonight, but I'm going to be leaving this information and my contact information as well on a piece of paper on that table over there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.
If I can just say, if you have not been to the Many Winters Gathering, you have to go. It's something that you just, it's such a different experience to hear the stories, to look at and see all the indigenous influences that have occurred in our community, but throughout the Southwest. It's really an important event if you have not been there. Please make it. That's it for that agenda item. We're going to move on down to Planning and Land Use and Port Committee. Will it be Diana or will it be it's
Both of
Thomas?
us. Both of us. I'll take the first two. All right. I'd like to call everyone's attention to item 6B1. Those 1 and 2 have some similarities. So tonight we've taken a stand in the committee. This one's out of committee. We want your support for Council File 25002-S1, opposing the Senate Bill 79 by Wiener. The similarity is the state is well-intentioned, but the application in Los Angeles is going to interfere with our housing element, which is really usurping local authority. It's offering solutions that aren't needed and aren't going to be as well suited to what we need in Los Angeles. So it's going to reduce public oversight, which is something as neighborhood council members I think we want to discourage. Basically what it's going to do is it's going to get rid of our ability to manage our own neighborhoods by imposing blanket upzoning. So you could see 7 stories near a major transit stop. Now keep in mind we have transit stops that aren't even that frequent in San Pedro, so it seems like it could really help change our community in a way we really wouldn't want. It's a one-size-fits-all mandate that erodes the foundation of community-based planning, which we've done very well through our housing element. So given that's out of committee, that's my brief introduction. If there's any discussion or questions, Diana and I will do our best to answer them.
Any questions from around the table? Okay, Melanie?
Just a technical one. So you have just a one sentence there. Is that it? That's just that you support CF?
Yes.
19.
Yeah,
okay.
we wanted to keep it.
Alrighty, I'm just making sure because I have to submit these on the
packets,
portals. So.
We thought the packets were long enough, so that one's just representing.
And the other one that you're going to do is the one just underneath it for the 115.
Well, they're not there yet. Let them finish that.
The other one's a little more complicated.
I just want to make sure of what we've got here. Okay.
So, take the vote.
Okay, John Barbera.
Yes.
Vic Christensen, aye. Craig Goldfarb.
Abstain.
Cynthia Gagne.
Yes.
Alonzo Jenkins.
Yes.
Melanie Albrecht.
Yes.
Kayla Miller.
Yes.
Yes.
Kane Nicholas.
Yes.
Thomas Norman.
Yes.
Ray Regalado.
Yes.
Michael Signorelli.
Yes.
Angela Sumner.
Yes.
Chris Vai.
Yes.
Okay, it's 12 ayes, 1 abstention.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to number 2. This one's a request to approve a motion requesting Councilmember Tim McCosker introduce a motion opposing Senate Bill 607. So there's no existing council file. The title of that Senate bill is California Environmental Quality Act Categorical Exemptions for Infill Projects. This is out of committee. Just for reference, the other local Planning and Land Use Committees also discussed these at our joint meeting and had support, and I believe Coastal's actually passed that one. The reason we should be concerned here is that this really guts CEQA for these local projects, which again, given our concern about the environment, is really, horrible. We again have the housing element, so it's taking away our local control, a very hard put together, multifaceted set of how we should be looking at our local housing needs. The bills are dressed up to look like housing reform to solve a big problem, but it really doesn't work for California. So we're hoping Councilmember McCosker's office will support us and come up with a motion to oppose that. And let's see, we've got anything else here? Coastal's approved the letter. Are the main notes? And if I'm missing any key things, Diana, is there anything else? All right.
What's an infill project?
Well, an infill project is where, as I understand, it's filling in a particular area. I know it exempts the. I don't know. You want to help out?
Can't hear anything. Please don't ask where I live. I said, please don't ask where I live.
We know.
Was that clear enough that, basically we'd be any space behind any of our houses except for industrial? Industrial is carved out in the law, but for residential space where there's room for additional development.
How does this affect the refinery closing?
Yeah. Saying that's industrial would be exempted. But the houses next to your house would not be.
We're taking a vote?
I still
Didn't know we were ready.
Now, is there any other discussion, questions?
I still don't get it.
All right, I think we're ready for a vote then.
Okay, John Barbera.
Yes.
Vic Christensen, aye. Craig Goldfarb.
Abstain.
Cynthia Gagne.
Abstain.
Alonzo Jenkins.
Yes.
Melanie LeBrecq.
Yes.
Kelly Miller.
Yes.
Kay Nicholas.
Yes.
Thomas Norman.
Yes.
Ray Regalado.
Yes.
Michael Signorelli.
Yes.
Angela Sumner.
Yes.
Chris Valle.
Yes.
So 11 ayes and 2 abstentions.
And the next one relates to Council File 22-1154-S1, which is a council file that is requesting the release of a request for proposal, also known as an RFP, for an interactive kiosk program, otherwise known as IKE. As originally proposed, the IKE would install somewhere between 300 and 500 8 to 9 foot tall, double-sided digital ad screens on the public right-of-way throughout the city of Los Angeles. Although we've not been able to confirm this, it appears that the signs in San Pedro would be placed on Pacific, Gaffey, and 6th Street. Such signs would be visual blight, potentially distracting to drivers. The city already has a program to provide information kiosks on transit shelters. It's unclear how the two programs would relate to each other. Additionally, there's concern that the IKE program would take revenue away from the existing street furniture program, which has 60% of the revenue going to the city. So it's a nice source of revenue for the city. The Public Works Committee previously asked for an assessment of the impacts on the general fund and the effects on the transit furniture program, but that has not been done. Additionally, the city attorney previously stated that the program needed a sequel analysis, which has also not been done. Our committee was not able to get very much information. We asked the council office, and we're hoping this next week to have more information on the program. But because it was written in such a way as to look like a rush, we wanted to take a position. So we have proposed the CIS that you find on page 56 that simply says, the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council opposes the motion to release an RFP for the Interactive Kiosk Experience Program as currently written. The proposed sites in our community are inappropriate, and there needs to be adequate time for community input on the program. So that's the motion before you would be to approve the CIS out of committee.
So if we don't want the signs up, we vote for this.
Say it louder, please.
If we don't want those kiosk signs up flashing, we vote for.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't want the kiosk, you vote for the motion. Chris?
Yeah, it just seems, I mean, from the sheer scale of the project, against the backdrop of everything else it is that we say we can't afford to do, all I can think of is installation, insurance, maintenance. At the very least, these are going to be soft targets for everybody who wants to kick something, or, you know, it's kind of seems like a long way around to fill a hole that hasn't been dug yet. Like, I'm not sure what problem this is solving. And I can't imagine how it's not going to cost us more to have them. Plus, maintenance is always something that suffers after. Like, we can always get a gadget or an installation or hardware or facility. Getting it taken care of after it's been put in the ground is something we argue about for decades after the fact. And I don't think this should ever
And
happen.
it would, seems to me it would block the sidewalks when we look at the width of the sidewalks on Pacific and Gappy. The problem is that this proposal I came forward a couple of years ago never went anyplace, and now the motion is to move it forward. We're assuming that what they're moving forward was the original proposal, which is why we wrote it the way we did. But we're trying to get information to be sure that that's accurate.
Yeah. It's a no for me.
Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, vote.
Okay, John Barbaro.
Yes.
Vic Christensen, aye. Craig Goldfarb.
Abstain.
Cynthia Gagne.
Yes.
Alonzo Jenkins.
Yes.
Melanie LeBrecq.
Yes.
Kelly Miller.
Yes.
Kay Nicholas.
Yes.
Thomas Norman.
Yes.
Ray Regalado.
Yes.
Michael Signorelli.
Yes.
Angela Sumner.
Yes.
Chris Valle.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Our committee is going to have our regular meeting on May 14th. We had previously announced that was going to be a special meeting of the Joint Committee to deal with the Phillips 66 proposal, but Phillips has asked to be delayed and come to a Joint Committee meeting on the 28th. So this Wednesday will be Northwest's regular Planning and Land Use Committee meeting, and we're going to go over a lot of different things. And then our regular Joint Committee meeting on May 28th is going to have two major items, one being the Phillips 66 presentation on what their plans are, and the second is the proposed Gibson chassis project, which you may recall this council has opposed, but they asked to come and give a presentation, and so we're letting them come and give a presentation. There is a complete committee report on this starts on page 60, which has a lot of information in, including the PAIP recommendations. The PAIP recommendations are very broad right now. There doesn't appear to be much detail, and we're going to be looking for detail, and they do want to come and give a presentation at some point to the full board. And then the other thing that I would point out in the committee report that might be of interest to some people is the proposal for an art port, which is a proposal to bring large-scale sculpture to 22nd Street Park. And if anyone's interested in that, they're actually leading a walk on Wednesday of the site, so you can see what they're proposing. So if anyone wants to know more about that, let me know. Thank you.
Quick question. Is that basically your planning and land use report as well? Or is there more to it?
Unless Thomas has something to add later.
Well, I mean, it sounded like you kind of skipped to the report after the motion, so.
Yeah, that's what I did. I keep it short.
I will make the report very brief in light of that.
May I make a comment?
Any comments?
Yeah, I do want to, everybody seems to be really ducking the thing about Phillips 66 closing down. It's not just Phillips 66. It's Valero, both up north and down here. Here, they've also announced that they're closing. You're looking at 20, 30% hike hikes in the price of gas. So I know there were a few people that didn't care. I think it's going to be huge. There's a lot of things coming down the pike now with an increase in gas prices. I think people should really be asking what's going on. When I asked here at a board meeting to Phillips 66 how that would affect gas prices, they ducked it. Newsom's being hit really hard on this. It's going to hit everybody in this room's pocket. I mean, I get 55, 60 miles to the gallon on my car. My wife gets 50 miles to the gallon. We're still going to be hurt. You want to drive somewhere? Watch it. Everything runs with gas.
Any other comments? Okay.
I said that before.
Let's go ahead and move on to the president's meeting at the port. Thomas?
No report.
They have moved their, if we can talk a little bit about that, they have moved their dates or their time to meet with the presidents from an evening meeting to morning meetings. I think we're coming up to one is it next week, Thomas?
Yep.
I think it's from 9 to 11. And I honestly was very open and honest with Augie, letting him know that I think it was not very productive that they arbitrarily moved their meetings without really taking any kind of inventory from neighborhood councils whether they could make it or not. I personally have had a problem for the last meeting or two. Did you say that you were teaching?
I teach at that time, so I think I will be able to go. My last final is tomorrow, but I will miss 80% of them because they chose a time which it really disadvantages those that work between 8 and 5 o'clock.
I am going to attend this next one. Are you going to be there too, Thomas, by any chance?
I plan to, yes.
Because I am going to kind of object quite enthusiastically about the fact that how they chose this date and time, because I think it eliminates easy access for neighborhood council people, especially if they work during the day. So that's just kind of an update. Is there a question back there about?
Can you move to the mic?
Christina Calandra. I know that we had Maria move her comments back to the animal shelter liaison section. However, she needs to get going soon. Is there any way we can move her comments up?
Well, I was going to move it up to the next item after the report.
Okay. Perfect.
Anyway, that's the extent of my concern with the port president's meeting. So we're going to have committee reports, but I did want to give an opportunity to the animal shelter liaison to maybe make a comment. We do have a liaison in the new person, Angela, Christina. Any report? And if not, then we can go straight to the comments.
Christina Calandra again. Just to report for last month, there has been an increase for dogs intake at Harbor Animal. Last month it was only 170 dogs. This month it's 200 dogs. Cats went down. Last month February it was 149 dogs. Last month it was 116 dogs. And we're at 125% capacity. So just to let you know that. And then also, just to make sure that safety is an issue, typhus is definitely something that we need to be careful of because there's the homeless community and then the animal community. So to make sure that that's made aware in the minutes, because there was a big outbreak a couple years ago. Actually, in City Hall, I think there were a couple of people that unfortunately were bit, and it's carried by cats and rats. So just to make sure that that comment is made, that the public is aware of that. And now we have Maria to make some comments regarding the harbor shelter.
Okay, hi, my name is Maria Valenterzoli, and I would like to bring attention to the council that Harbor Animal Shelter appears to be under mismanagement, compromising the welfare and the animals housed in this facility. The tasks do not appear to be completed or completed properly, such as feeding. There's no tracking. The dogs are supposed to be fed twice a day. We had a volunteer that went out there last week, stayed for 3 hours, 3 days, 3 different days, 3 hours behind in the park at Leland Park, videotaped to see if the dogs were getting fed. Those 3 days, no feedings whatsoever. Okay? Hayden's Law. I don't know if you guys know of Hayden's Law. Hayden's Law protects all animals. You may not put down a healthy dog. Only dogs that can be euthanized are dogs that are either vicious, have had a history of bites and stuff like that, or they're sick. Okay? Any healthy, adoptable dog is to be either trained or put into a rehab place where people can handle them and train them and get them adopted. There's no reason for all these killings. I'm there every Saturday. I take pictures. I have my group right here, all these ladies here. Here are the pictures. They try to tell us that the kennels are clean. The kennels are not clean. These dogs live in feces. If you're there to adopt a dog, people walk away. They look at the pictures, they look at the dogs, they smell it, and they walk away. Good. We had a lady and her daughter. There was 2 puppies. They were looking for puppies. She looked at the puppy, and she turned her daughter, and she walked right out of the shelter. Their dogs, the white one, his paw is yellow. It's full of feces. The dog bowl's full of feces. There's not one kennel that does not, and I can't say the word poop, because it's not poop. It's diarrhea. It's scattered on the walls. It's on their bowls. Now, when I hear a dog that's going to be euthanized because of stress, FAS, fear, anxiety, and stress, let me put any single one of you, including myself, in a cage and tell me if I'm not going to have fear, anxiety, or stress. That is no reason to kill a dog or a cat. They had another dog, which we have not been able to go into the rooms because they will not let us in there. But we found out by law that we can ask for a tour and they have to let us in. So we will be doing that. They have an isolation room. It is 24/7 dark, no lights. Those dogs don't get to see anybody. The volunteers don't get to go in there. They're not petted. They're not socialized. They are in the dark. We don't even know what their cage crates look like. There was a point where one of the volunteers last week told us the crates were stacked on top of each other in a heat wave, and Martha Lopez did nothing and walked away. I have called for 7 months also to talk to Martha Lopez. I finally got through, I think 2 weeks ago. I talked to her for about 10 minutes, and then that was that. I talked to her again, and that was that. She kind of laughed at me when I said, I don't think it's funny when we're the taxes and payers that are paying your paycheck, and you're getting a nice paycheck, but yet you're not there at work. Now, the management's job is to have resources, organizations, rescues. All that stuff should be in place so she can make a phone call and get these animals saved and get them rescued. When you talk about overcapacity, that shouldn't happen. That's poor management. Okay, so she was doing her job correctly and not coming to work late and not leaving every day before 1 o'clock, because I take my break at 1 o'clock every day. And every time I call her, Monday through Friday, she's already gone for the day. And I have that on my phone. It's phone stamped every single day, Monday through Friday. But she gets a nice paycheck. So when you guys talk about the budget and stuff like that, why is it? She's getting a paycheck, and these animals are suffering. The cleaning of the kennels, the customer service, you can walk in there, you don't get greeted, you don't get looked at, you don't get a hello, you don't get anything. You just walk right in. The people behind their desks on their phones, chit-chatting, talking, doing this and all that kind of stuff. No one looks up at you. You have to sit there and stand there for like 10 minutes and finally say, hello, hello. You know, we have this person here. I had to help them. I don't work there, but I had to help them because they were looking for a puppy. There's 6 of them right there. But nobody wanted to help them. You know, the feeding, no one's tracking it. They were supposed to be audited. They were supposed to be investigated. They got a fine by Cal OSHA for over, I think it was $657,000. Their broiler was not working during winter, so these dogs were, and if you see the pictures, flooded in water. The towels that are there are to keep the water from going into the kennels, so the dogs are not sitting in cold, wet kennels. The people that are cleaning there, the one worker, I'm not sure of his name, so I'm not going to say a wrong name, but we asked him if he could please, he was spraying the kennel with the dog in there. The feces was flying outside on to where my feet were. We asked him to stop. He kept on doing it. We asked him if he'd please squeegee it so the dog wasn't sitting in cold water, and he just walked away and ignored us until we went in and talked to a manager, and they said they would do it. Now, the staff there is supposed to be doing the work, but yet it's the volunteers that are doing all the work. The volunteers clean the kennels. The volunteers are doing the feeding. The volunteers are taking their own money to buy dog food. Now, they get a lot of donations of dog food. When it rained months ago and stuff, there was piles of Science Diet and good food, and it was sitting there in the rain, and me and some of the volunteers outside were bringing it inside ourselves. The blankets, we brought it in ourselves. We asked the shelter, they said we can't use it. Why? We fostered a dog, an 88-pound Alaska Malamute, an 88 lady, Mary. She fostered him for us because they were going to put him down for no reason but for space, right? Again, against the law. When we asked for the bag of food that's supposed to be fostering is free, she gave me a goodie bag like a birthday party. I looked at her like, he's 88 pounds. That's a snack. Mary's 80. She needs food for the dog. So when I complained, they came out with a metal cart, gave us 2 cases of canned dog food and 2 big bags of dog food. And I didn't do that just once. I went back every 2 weeks and said, give Mary, she's still fostering, she needs food. The dog had no paperwork when we left, didn't have his rabies shots, had worms. The dog was on medication for over a month, and this poor lady, Mary, we all had to help and go to her house, lives in Lomita, to help her walk the dog, to help her clean all the diarrhea off the floor outside in her backyard. Because again, the dog didn't have the rabies shots, didn't have the medication, had worms when it left, and she had no paperwork whatsoever to show. If anything would have happened, if that dog would have bit somebody or anything happened, because we have no papers or anything like that, she would have been liable for that dog. So we're talking from, the Hayden's law, the isolation room. There's another one called the dark room. So we need to have a tour. We need to do an investigation. Something needs to happen because these dogs are the ones that are suffering. And like I said, we're there every week. These are older pictures. The ones I just took last week looked worse. Wow. And every time I ask what's going on, they always say we're understaffed. If you're understaffed, why does it take 6 months to become a volunteer? I'm a preschool teacher, okay? 25 years. Doesn't take no 6 months for my background check to come back. It took like about a month or so. And I have to go through the FBI and everything because mine's with Northrop at their school. So it's a big, extensive background check. So for me to walk a dog, and I have experience with dogs and training dogs, why is it going to take me 6 months to go in there and clean a kennel or walk a dog or feed a dog or do something the volunteers can do maybe that I might not know to do, but put me in a different position? Why aren't there programs out there for people to come in, which they had, I guess, about 3 weeks ago, where the public was able to come in and take a dog out for the day? Not one of us knew about it until the week after it happened. So not one of those dogs got taken out. They have these events at Eastview Park for adoptions. I used to do them every Sunday and try to help adopt the dogs. How many dogs do you think they brought? 1. How do you have an adoption event and bring me 1 dog? And the dog they brought was a Dachshund, a long hair. He was bleeding, not from his nostril, but from the top of his nose. Not a little bit, but dripping. And then his hair was full of mange, like pockets. I was scared to touch a dog because I have 2 at home. And I'm like, you're giving me this dog to try to adopt out to the people at the park when they're looking at this dog. So Harbor Shelter has a lot of issues. I know there's a lot of other shelters that have issues too, you know, with the budget and the money and the training, but there has to be some kind of training that has to be done there. The staff, I'm sorry to say, but the staff is absolutely horrible. There are some people that are there for the right reasons. There are a lot of people that are there just to play on their phones and do absolutely nothing. And I could give you every single one of them. But I mean, to see Blue, the Doberman that was in isolation for 30 plus days in the dark for no reason. Thank God this dog still came out as sweet as he can be and got adopted. And then Lorraine is out there still. Well, I'm going to speak for Lorraine real quick, but vetting. They don't do vetting at the animal shelter.
Vetting of what?
Vetting means, so basically...
No, vetting of what?
Of adoptions.
Okay.
So basically, if I come in with an ID, I can adopt a dog. If I'm homeless and I come in with my California ID, driver's license, I can adopt a dog. So they had that happen twice. One dog got on a bus with somebody. The next day, they found him at Downey Animal Shelter. They turned the dog into a different shelter, a high-kill shelter. That same couple just adopted Elvis. I'm sure, I don't know if you guys read about Elvis, the white Siberian that was potty trained. He was in his kennel for 3 months. He would not relieve himself. He would not poop or pee in the kennel because he was housebroken. So that poor dog suffered for 3 months in that kennel. If he didn't get a walk, he didn't pee. If he didn't get a walk, he didn't poop. He got UTIs, he got stomach aches, he had lots of problems, and he got adopted. We thought it was a blessing, but guess what? It was the same two people that adopted the other dog that dropped him off at Downey Shelter. Now we have no idea where Elvis is at and if he's okay. So
Maria?
the vetting has to happen.
Maria,
Yes.
this is a lot of really good information.
Who's talking?
We really need to be able to look at this in some detail. We appreciate the fact that you're bringing this information to us. I think it's easily determined that there needs to be some improvement, but I would like to ask that if one of our committees would take the time to look at this.
We have been.
Issues.
But, I mean,
Issues. We are.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need your information to go to our co-chair here for issues so that they could have a deeper dive into it and come back with recommendations, to come back with corrective measures, to come back with something so that we can have an action for.
Yeah, that's exactly what we need.
That's what we need. But I'm also going to ask you to go out and talk to the other neighborhood councils in the area that rely on the services of the animal shelter to see how they might want to participate in whatever further examination of the challenges are out there, so that we can have a comprehensive report that identifies the challenges. But the thing that really makes it worth the work is what remedies you are suggesting occur, so that we don't have these issues of abuse.
Well, we need to have some programs out there, like the school programs that they
Well,
started.
I appreciate that you have ideas,
Yeah.
but we need something a little bit, we need to step it up than an idea. We need to have an action behind it. And that's what's going to make the issue come to life and be corrected.
So that's where we need your help. How do we start?
And, well, I just mentioned, we need to
Go to the councils?
bring it to the committee meeting. I would suggest that you start having coordinated meetings with the other neighborhood councils so that it can be not just Northwest going, to bat for these animals, but, we also have Central, we also have Coastal, we also have Harbor City, and we also have Wilmington, and any other neighborhood council that comes that the community relies on the services of this particular animal shelter.
Yeah.
So that we have some kind of accountability and we do have an action plan. That's what we need. We need an action plan.
Yes, we do.
So, and we appreciate the information. We appreciate the stories. Well, honestly, I don't appreciate them because it scares the hell out of me. You know.
Like I said, if you saw the animals there and their eyes and how they look at you, and they have nowhere to walk or lay.
I understand.
You know, and then they get fed once a day, and it's like a half a cup.
So I want you to hook up with John and see how you might start having some type of action that we could do something about. We need actionable items so that we can move forward with it. But we need, and this is something that I learned from my many years of organizing communities, the more voice we have, the louder it's harder. It's harder to ignore because we're loud in making the message known. But the other thing too is that we have to call to arms the volunteerism that every member of the neighborhood council comes hopefully to do. It's not just attending one meeting a month and then, you know, you can say that you're actively engaged. No, it's getting out there and really actively engaged within your community. And that's the important thing, how we can get more and more people to actively engage the animal shelter so that
we are out there every Saturday with our signs, and I know that just helps a little bit to get the community to stop and they ask us questions, but it's not the problem.
I hate to be blunt, but if you're doing this all these Saturdays and you're not seeing any improvement, then there's something wrong with that strategy. That strategy has to be refined, and it has to have a louder voice, and it has to be organized. And John will help kick that off. So I, as much as I appreciate the information, I want action out of it, and that's where it starts. Let's start getting people engaged.
Can I give Ina a chance here? Tell you
We're
about
running really late, so
2 seconds. The
just
only reason why we're out
make it
there
quick.
on Saturdays and we go to First Thursdays or whatever other events are in town is for public awareness. We know that we're not doing anything to correct the problems inside the shelter. We just want the people to know what is going on at our local shelter because we have people that are surrendering their dogs. We had a situation once where we were standing at First Thursdays with our signs, pictures of the animals that were already killed. And a little boy came up to one of my signs and said, "Hey, that's my dog." And then he read down and he said, "Was killed at Harbor Shelter on this date." He was shocked. His jaw dropped and he took off running, sobbing. I felt horrible. But this is people drop off their animals. They surrender their animals like they're taking something back to Kmart. And so people need to know that this is the reality of our shelter. Be responsible. This is your animal. And I know that it's the shelter's responsibility to help that in that regard with programs or whatever, but it's not happening. Again, we're out there just for public awareness. That's what we're there for.
So are you hoping that there's going to be some kind of action based on your public
No, but
awareness
we're
program?
here. No, we're here because we're looking for more.
Right, so I'm asking you to do the next step.
Right, absolutely.
And that's start organizing and start getting people on the ground so that they can ask. I say ask, because you don't demand right off the bat. You ask and see how the improvements can be made.
Well, we went to the last meeting, and John and Christine and Adrian, yeah, she was there also. They gave us their email, so I have been supplying them with documents that I've come across that might help with the situation. So we are now engaging. Again, we want change. We need change. These animals are dying because of this stuff being allowed to continue, and it needs to stop. So, yeah, this is why we're here.
And I appreciate that. Thank you so much for bringing it to our collective information.
Well, that's just it.
But
I don't think people are aware.
But we need action.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping that you guys will also look toward what action items you could develop so that these things can be corrected. Thank you.
If I can follow up, if I can just follow up. So with the motion that Tim McCosker made, number 25-0343, that Drew brought up earlier that was requesting basically the SOPs for animal shelters. That was requested on April 28th of this year. So hopefully that information will be provided, because once we have that information, we actually have content to work from and actually build a case. Right now I'm working from information from 2019.
I'll tell you, I'm really looking forward to your participation in this. I mean, you're there. Give it to us so that we can run with it.
Yeah, so just hoping for the information back, but yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. We're running out of time. Let me make a quick community report on this thing here that I have. For those of you who don't know, there was a hate crime in Wilmington last week.
Oh, wow.
Craig, are you interested in this hate crime that occurred? So, there was a hate crime last week in Wilmington. It was against a African-American young woman with a child, and there was a report made. But this type of activity happens, and many times it goes unreported. There is material in the back. You have to report any kind of bias, behavior, or hate crimes. Please do it. Call 211. It's a county telephone number so that they know it, because if it's not reported, it never happened. The thing is that this stuff happens every day, so we have to be on our toes. If you would all please just get a poster. There's some posters back there. Michael was nice enough to say that they're going to put one of these posters up. Make sure that it's there. You have lawn signs that are back there. Please take one, put it up in your front yard. This is an important campaign for people so that they know that they're supported. When a hate crime occurs, it's the ugliest type of hate that occurs, or the ugliest kind of crime that occurs to a person, because it's personal. Has nothing to do with the fact that they want your money or your wallet or steal your car. They're after you, and they're after your dignity, and they're after who you are, and that is the worst thing to do. So please take a sign, put it up. Here, there's brochures that was mentioned earlier. Take them. We have cards back there that also, you can carry with you with reference information. And there's even stickers out there for some of the little young kids who really enjoy stickers. So please take them, take advantage of this program. Don't let hate get unreported. Please, you have to report it. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because I spent my last 25 years fighting against hate crime with the County of Los Angeles. That was my job. And I see it happening in my community, and it's horrible for it to happen. And it can happen to any one of us. It happens to us all the time. If you're a woman, if you're a person of color, if you are LGBTQ, if you're a child, if you're a senior, it happens. Don't let these people get away with it. Report it so that resources can be pointed in that direction. So anyway, and that's all I'm going to say. It's really important. Thank you. All right. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, just a quick comment to what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's a lot of anxiety, a lot of feelings in the air. That would be a 3-week meeting to even discuss it. But what are some of the maybe public forums in order to openly discuss these types of conversations, whether it be at public parks or libraries, or if anybody has kind of experienced this type of level of tension?
I think it would be a great thing. We've had them here before. we had one of the last hate crimes that we had, which was up here up by Averill Park a couple of years ago. It was pretty horrible.
Yeah,
Someone just destroyed someone's car.
it was bad.
So we've had them here in our neighborhoods, in our backyards, and we did have a hate crime summit here at Peck Park. We can do it again, but we have to wherewithal. If someone wants to drive it, I got the contacts for you to get the people here to do it again. And Tim's office has been very supportive of making sure that the community was supported out in Wilmington last week. And I've had the conversation with him that he's very supportive of this type of activity as far as reporting and making sure that there's attention drawn to it.
I'll follow up with you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. We have reports and stuff like that. It's 8:41. We're beyond our time. We want to try to get out of here by 8:30. We kind of started a little late. We should. So, yes, sir.
Can I also, do we have a sergeant at arms or a timekeeper for?
We used to.
John usually keeps time when people are speaking and stuff like that.
Tonight was kind of weird, but.
Yeah.
I move that we just conclude the meeting. I don't think there's any
I second it.
reports that
Okay.
are that dire
Okay,
to be done at this
discussion?
point.
I see no hands.
I just wanted to make a quick announcement then under
Sure.
a report I was going to give. If you want to go to One San Pedro, they're having an open house on May 21st at noon. I think they encourage RSVPs, but that will happen before our next meeting. So that was all I would have added to what Diana said.
If
Thanks.
we can put something on our website, and maybe Christina can make it all over.
We did send that to Northwest Support, so hopefully that'll make the
Great.
website.
Great. Anything else?
No.
Without objection, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Today.
That's a good idea that you have left. We can add it to the outreach agenda for next month.